Hi everyone, Aidan here with etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Yakima JetStream roof rack system for raised rails here on our 2016 Nissan Rogue. Now, a roof rack is going to be great for a number of things. Whether you're looking to haul larger things like a kayak or a canoe or a paddleboard on your roof, it's going to help you do that, give you the space to do that. Or you're just looking to add extra cargo space to your vehicle. Maybe you've got a car full of people for a road trip, or you're just looking to haul a bit extra gear and not have it take up space inside your vehicle. You can put a cargo basket, a rooftop box, all sorts of things up onto the roof rack and free up space inside your vehicle. Let's check it out. So starting from the bottom and working our way up, we're gonna have these towers here. And the way that they're gonna work is they have a band that wraps around the raised rail and comes back into the tower right there in these notches. Tighten it down with that bolt and it holds it tight to the car. I'll pop this back on and do a quick shake test. It's really sturdy, really solid. I can shake the whole vehicle back and forth from it, so it's not going anywhere. One thing about it is with these covers here, you can lock them if you purchase the Yakima same key system separately. By default, they aren't lockable, but they do just cover that spot up, reducing wind noise and stuff. But I would recommend picking up the locks just because security is really nice. The way this works though, it's going to be more of a universal system. So rather than like a custom fit to the contours of your roof, it's going to wrap around the bars. So any sort of vehicle with raised rails, this should work well with. So if you have multiple vehicles or you're upgrading vehicles later on down the line, this same sort of system should work with it. So the crossbars in this kit are going to be 50 inches long from side to side here. They're going to be aluminum, so that's really nice because they're going to hold up well in the elements that way, and they're going to maintain a nice lightweight design. This one is a black powder coated version, but you can also get it in silver. So you can kind of match it to the look of your vehicle or just personal preferences. I will say though, these bars are the ones we keep down here in the shop with us, and you can see over the years just the little scuffs and scratches that it does pick up. And that's mainly with the powder coat here, and you can especially see it around the T-track right here. So just maybe keep that in mind when you're thinking about how long you're going to keep this. Speaking of T-track though, you can see here it's got a really nice weather strip in it. And I like this one a lot more compared to some other ones because you don't have to cut this weather strip to length. I have the Yakima Aero Bars on my car, and the weather strip there you have to cut to length if you want to use that for accessories. With this one, you'd put your T-track accessory in the top and slide it into position, and that rubber seal will just kind of contour around it so you don't ever have to cut anything, and it's going to help just keep down wind noise overall and minimize gaps. Something else that's going to help with that wind noise is the aero design of the crossbars. That's just the shape here. Wind is going to kind of break over this rounded portion at the front and taper off down the sides right there. Versus something like a square bar, it's maybe going to pick up a little bit more noise. So I like this design in this shape the best. It's also going to be fairly easy for any clamp around accessories to fit around there and get a good strong hold. As far as that T-track goes though, to access that, you'll just pull out on this end cap here. And there's that end where you can access it. So you just slide in your T-track accessories right there in that slot like that and cover it back up with the end cap. The bars are going to give you a 165-pound weight capacity, which is pretty standard for most roof rack systems, but always be sure to check your vehicle and make sure it's up to the task as well. And as far as some measurements go on your Rogue here, let's go ahead and get in the center here the distance from the roof to the bottom of the crossbar right here, and that's going to be 3 inches of clearance. So I think that's plenty for any sort of clamp around accessories. These towers do add a bit of height to it, so if you do have a clamp around accessory with some bolts or some hand knobs that are hanging down, I don't think you should have any issues with clearance. And as far as overall height added to the vehicle goes, you're sitting at about 4 inches from the roof to the top of the crossbar right here. So I think that's still pretty low profile. I've definitely seen some that are a lot higher, and I think it's going to be a good fit for the Rogue. And as far as first time setup goes, these are pretty easy to get rolling. You do have to kind of mess with the crossbar spread a little bit, find the right fit for your vehicle, and make sure everything is nice and even since there aren't fixed mounting points, but the whole process is pretty easy. Check out how we did it. All right, so the first step of our install is going to be to lay out our parts here on the table. Just do a little bit of pre-assembly here before we go up to the roof. So on our crossbars, we're going to have these end caps here. They're just going to be little plastic tabs that you lift up on and pull out. They can be a little bit stubborn, but you can pop it out like that. There's that little tab down there that'll kind of lock in to this part here. And then we can go ahead and take our feet here. We're going to have the block up here that's going to slide into our T-track. So what we'll do is flip it over, undo our band here, and push it in. You're going to see on the inside there, it'll expose a bolt. It might be hard to see on camera, but there is a bolt down in there. So to get that, you just push in the bar, the band there, and we'll slide it on the bar. We're going to use this same end cap for both of our towers here. So we'll just line that block up with our T-track. There we go. And since we're doing both, we're going to have them facing outward on either side. So basically, once you get these up here on either end, you want these bolts facing to the outside of the bars there. And since we did a little bit of pre-measuring, we did like a rough fit up on the roof. We're going to line these up about where we need it. So there's markings on your bar there. They're really tough to see, especially with the glare, but there's a 31 right there. So we're going to line up this tower with that line there that says 31. We'll push that band in and come back to that bolt to tighten this down to the bar. Now I'm going to leave that a little bit loose there just to make sure if we need to make any final adjustments up on the roof, we can. And do the same thing on this side. This one's a little bit tight, so I'm going to loosen it just to make it easier to slide around. Right there at that 31, and we'll tighten it down. Now, if you were fully tightening it down, you'd do that. You'd hear that click in your tool. That lets you know it's properly torqued down. So just replace this end cap and take it up to the roof. Before we set this up on the roof, we want to figure out about where we're going to put it. A lot of roof rack systems will have fixed mounting points, and your Rogue is no different. You'll see on the other side those black dots on the inside of the raised rail. Those are fixed mounting points that you might use for a different roof rack system. But because these are a clamp around system that go around the raised rails, we can really put them anywhere we want along this rail. So for our application, we're just going to go and kind of split the middle of those fixed mounting points. But in general, you want to go with the crossbar spread that's going to work for your accessories. Generally something in the 26 to 28 inch range is about good. And at minimum, I'd maybe recommend a 24-inch spread. So we'll just go ahead and set this up here roughly in place. We'll take an exact measurement later once we figure out exactly where we want it. And just try to feed that under your raised rail. And already, just kind of roughly fitting this up here, it seems like we might have to spread these feet out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just flip this upside down, make sure these bands aren't wrapped around the raised rail. We'll loosen up these towers and bring them out a little bit. With that adjustment made, we slid these out a bit. I do have one little tip. You know how we pushed these bands in to expose that bolt before we came up to the roof here? Just go ahead and push that bolt in on the outside. It's going to make it a little easier for these bands to wrap around the raised rails. So if you are making frequent adjustments, this is going to help you a lot more, where you can just kind of feed it in on one side. It's not going to fight you as much, hopefully. And then over here, we'll just do the same thing. We've got a pretty nice fit right here. We want this contour to kind of match the outside of the raised rail here. just to minimize wind noise and any sort of shake and play we might get. That's looking pretty good, so we'll just come around to the band here and lock it in place. And so that band is going to just wrap around your raised rail here and rest in some notches right there. We'll then come back with the same tool that we've been using this whole time. Got that bolt right there, and we'll just proceed to tighten that down, and that's going to draw the band in and around the raised rail. So you can kind of see it raising up off the roof right there. And just make sure you're going back and forth between each side when you're doing this, just to get an even tighten. We don't want to fully torque down one side, pull the whole roof rack system over to the driver's side here, and leave it uneven. And before we get everything tightened down, you also want to check your crossbar spread just to make sure the bars are running parallel to each other. So I've already gone on the other side and measured center to center of the clamps. It's 28.5 inches, and that measurement matches on this side as well. So we know that these bars are going to be running parallel to each other and not skewed one direction. And then once we have clicking on all sides, right there. Oh. Just like that, we know that everything's properly torqued down. We can put on our end caps right here. Now, if you did purchase the lock cores, you can go ahead and lock it up, but otherwise, you'd be done. And that's all there is to it for the install. I really like this roof rack system. I think it's gonna work really well for the Nissan Rogue. Personally, I do like the fixed mounting points that other roof rack systems offer, just because I feel like it gets a more custom fit to the vehicle. But I like this system for a different reason, and that's adjustability. Because it just wraps around the raised rails here, you can kind of set it to any point you need. So if you've got a specific accessory that requires a certain crossbar spread, you're not bound to just those specific mounting points. You can move these to fit your accessory. Not to mention, if you have a different vehicle with raised rails, or you decide to upgrade to a new vehicle later on and it has those raised rails, you can just transfer the roof rack system over to it. So you don't have to sacrifice that whenever you get a new vehicle. Overall though, I think it's going to serve you really well. It's going to let you get a lot more space up onto the roof of your car. Thanks for watching.